Minister, I want to come back to your comment about the interesting relationship between private providers and childcare operators. Would it not be a good thing to have training providers with strong industry links, or is that not the objective here?
Look, I think it is important to have very strong links. It's also equally important that there is job security, and it's equally important that the rights of individuals are protected and the payment of those individuals are lawful as well.
Great. You don't want to expand on that any further, Minister?
I think that's self-evident.
Thank you very much. If we can get back to the workforce and in early childhood, and this is a passion point of mine, of course.
Yeah.
With the Minister Blanthorne spoke yesterday about the delays in free kinder being somewhat associated with workforce challenges. And if there is, in fact, I think the department has mentioned that there'll be 100,000 new childcare workers needed by 2034. So is this target realistic and is expected to be met when there's cuts in subsidy rates to non-TAFE providers?
There's a couple of things in that. First of all, that is data that's generated by understanding what the demand would be. It's not a government target per se, which is something that others have peddled, and that's not the case. But the fact of the matter is that essentially recruitment isn't necessarily tied to the provision of vocational education and training. There might be some other recruitment employment issues that might be confronting the sector, and I would encourage you to have further conversations with Minister Blanthorne and of course the Minister for Employment. But a recent report from Jobs and Skills Australia also states that issues including pay, work stress, high workload and lack of recognition for skills development have undermined job satisfaction and career opportunities. So there's a bit of work that cut across a number of portfolios that we need to look at, but the Victorian Government is also offering financial support of up to $7,000 for people to upskill from the Certificate 3 to diploma under the Certificate 3 Upskill Support Program.
Yeah.
So that's worth noting. And the Australian Government is also funding 15% above award wage increases for all eligible early childhood education and care workers through the Early Childhood Education Program worker retention payment to improve retention rates. So there are a couple of things that are happening at a federal and a state level, given the importance that we do share in respect to early childhood education.
And I agree with you, it is a cross-portfolio challenge, but what's the point of having skills subsidies if it's not meeting government-identified skills gaps? Because that 100,000 by 2034, you'd agree with that, that's come from the department.
The issue then becomes who pays. And I think you would have to agree that the Victorian Government, by having early childhood education at TAFE, by having early childhood education on the free TAFE list, by the federal government having the programs and the incentives that I've just outlined, are actually doing a lot when it comes to early childhood education. Other people also need to make a contribution to vocational education and training, I would submit.
If we can move on to the Cert 3, because we mentioned, I think it was Ms Healy that mentioned the 91 programs that were removed from the skills need list last year. One of those was Cert 3 and outside hours school care. Has demand for before and after school care reduced, do you know, in the last year?
Is that correct?
I'll kick off the throat. So again, at a general level, the courses that were adjusted for 2025 allocation were based on the provision being really strong in the fee-for-service market, primarily because they're low cost. Them not being a high priority course in terms of where government wants to put its effort and in terms of its priorities, and also where we can see that TAFEs have got adequate provision across the state. And so for a number of the courses, and early childhood is a good one, TAFEs are effectively providing about 90% of those of that provision we have through 2025 is the
Of
goal.
early childhood education.
Broadly, and let me take that number of 90% on notice because I'm not looking at my notes,
Great, thank
so I'll
you.
come back on that number. But the principle here is where we have a footprint across the state of high quality TAFE provision, supplemented by really strong community-based and Aboriginal community-controlled registered training organisations and really solid privately owned niche providers who have a fantastic track record in delivery. It's that managed system that will serve us best. And so as we remove a course from subsidy, we appreciate that that's not well received by those who've provided it in the past, but it's done on the basis that we, I won't repeat myself, but done on the basis that we can see the provision will be taken up within the TAFE system.
So the demand for outside of school hours hasn't actually gone down, nor has the need for those skilled workers, because they're arguably different skill sets, I would imagine. Toddlers are very different from 10 to 11-year-olds.
So in terms of actual demand, that's where we use the work of the Skills Authority based on the work of the industry advisory groups, which Craig can, if it's okay, Minister, to...
Of course.
I don't know the specifics regarding that particular qualification, but generally what we do know is there is this sense of this full requirement for that qualification. As you can imagine, many people working in out-of-school care, this is a transition work for them, and they're probably doing other courses as well. So, and they're probably doing other education courses. So there was a probably decision made that that full course was not required to the extent that it has been in the past.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.